Hello everyone, this is James Song here. Welcome back to my video today. As you can see on the screen, we have speaking section of the TOEFL test prepared for you. It is question type 3 of the speaking section in the TOEFL test. So let's get into it, guys. First section is reading, as you know. So just a quick reminder, within 1 minute, we need to read the reading passage in 45 seconds real time. And it's really important we write necessary notes in 45 seconds, because after 45 seconds, we won't be able to see it again because reading passage will disappear after 45 seconds. And then we will listen to the listening passage. And then we have 30 seconds to prepare, and then we need to speak 60 seconds to answer this question, okay? In speaking format, it's a speaking section. So first part is the reading passage for within 45 seconds. Sometimes I do it real time. I show you a demonstration how it should be read and what kind of notes should be made within 45 seconds to obviously, make it a little bit more realistic. But today, content is a little hard. It's not like impossible hard, if I have to grade the level of difficulties to like easy, medium, hard, maybe it's in the medium or medium to hard, or maybe on the hard category. But it's not impossible hard. So I would like to be friendly and thorough. So I won't demonstrate the reading passage within 45 seconds, but rather I'll read sentence by sentence with you and, do that kind of a little bit more thorough teaching today to cover the reading passage to start off with. Okay, so let's go. So method of loci, okay, so whatever this means, looks like Latin or whatever, okay, so loci method. So we need to find the definition of what method of loci is as an academic concept. Spatial technique or memory devices are often used to help us recall information, okay, so maybe method of loci is one of the technique, right? One technique, here we go. So one special technique people can use to recall information. So the technique to recall information is the method of loci. Okay, all right. So one special technique to recall info is method of loci, okay? And which is particularly helpful for remembering several pieces of information in a particular order or specific order. Okay, so obviously, I may be writing a little bit more than, if I had to do this in 45 seconds. So this may be a little bit more idealistic and longer than what it should be. If you watch my other videos when I do it really within 45 seconds, but, I'm just mix it up. I'm trying to mix it up. Some lessons, I do it a little faster and quicker and a bit more swiftly if the level of difficulty is a little bit on the easy side. And, I want to be a little bit more detailed and intentionally slow down and be thorough if I feel the question is a little harder, okay? So bear with me, right? Don't lose that concentration. Okay, so that's the definition, right? So probably second sentence, really. That's what we need for our reading summary. What we need to say in our speaking answer to get the full mark. So if you get this down in 45 seconds, you've done what is required to get a full mark when you're giving your answer. But let's read a little bit more for two reasons, as I always say. First, you improve so much and kind of summarize the reading perfectly. They'll help you. And second, it will specifically help you when you listen to the listening passage, because this part is pretty much preview of the listening passage, okay? So step 2. To use this technique, okay, so how do we use this technique? First, we imagine a familiar place, such as a building or outdoor area. This familiar place should have a series of landmarks. So within a building, it should have several landmarks or several locations in the building, okay, in logical order. So for example, let's think of a palace I visited, right? I just want to think of that place as my familiar place. And inside it, there should be locations or landmark within the building. So, like first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor, or in the corridor, there is a table. And if I walk a little longer, there is a specific painting. If I walk a little bit longer, there is an entrance to gymnasium. If I walk a little bit longer, towards at the end of the corridor, I see a TV. So that's what it means, okay? So to use this technique, we first imagine a familiar place such as building. So let's say a building. And this building should have a series of landmarks in the building in logical order. So in the building, I have, first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor. Or I have, what was it? Painting, table, TV, window, okay, in particular order, okay, one by one. Okay, so once the landmarks, so imagine a place and series of landmark in the place in logical order, right? So series of landmark in the place in logical order, okay? All right, next, once the landmarks have been identified in given order, yeah, we've done that. We assign one piece of information, wow, I get it now, that we want to later recall to each location, each landmark, okay, landmark or location. So we assign information to each landmark. Okay, so we give certain information towards one landmark each. I mean, I understood what it means. Like I can see how it ends, but I'll just do step by step. Okay, so I'll kind of act dumb and wait for the next sentence to reveal to us what this means. Okay, so let's say we have first floor, second floor, third floor, fourth floor in my mind in logical order in the building. We assign one piece of information to level 1, another piece of information level 2, another piece of information level 3, another piece of information level 4. That's what it means. Okay, understood? To recall the information in order, in sequence, we imagine walking through the familiar place. So we imagine walking through the building. So in my case, I climbed the stairs from level 1 to level 4, right? So that was the sequential walk I've done once I enter the building, right? So to later recall the new information in order, we imagine walking through the familiar place, building, recalling what is stored. So what information I stored in each location or each landmark along the way. So let's say I am studying for a history exam. I need to remember ancient Greece, Roman Empire, Middle Ages, and Renaissance. 4 pieces of information, for example. Then I try to match it with the landmark. Okay, so first floor, ancient Greece. Second floor, Roman Empire. Third floor, Middle Ages. Fourth floor, Renaissance. And try to remember first floor, Greece. Second floor, Roman. Third floor, Middle Ages. Fourth floor, Renaissance. Fourth floor, Renaissance. Second floor, Roman Empire. Third floor, Middle Ages. Okay, try to match them up. Method of loci, method of location. Okay, cool. So that's a full note. And it may not be perfectly realistic. I may have written a little bit longer than I should if I were to do it in 45 seconds, but today I wanted to show you a little bit differently, just to understand the contents in 100% perfect detail. Okay, all right. So maybe next video I'll go back to doing it in real time, or I may do this a couple more times, depends on what would help you the most. Okay, yeah. All right, so reading done, and let's move to the listening part by listening to the listening passage and writing necessary notes. This time, obviously, real time. Okay, let's go, guys. Here we go.
Now listen to part of a lecture on this topic.
So how would this work? Well, let's say you need to learn the names of the planets, in order by distance from the sun. So first, think about the landmarks you pass as you walk from, say, your dormitory to the student center. The first one might be the front door of your dormitory, then the big tree in front of the dorm. The next landmark you pass might be the statue in front of the library. Next, the steps to the science building. You get the idea. You memorize the major points along the walk, imagining yourself going from the first landmark to the second, the third, and so on. Now, the next thing you do is assign one planet to each of your landmarks, in sequence. Since Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, you assign it to the first landmark, the front door of your dorm. The next planet, Venus, to the tree in front of the dorm. The third planet, Earth, you assign to the third landmark, the statue in front of the library, and so on and so on. And each time you picture the association in your mind as vividly as possible. Then, later, say you're sitting in the classroom taking a test, and you have to write the order of the planets from the sun. What do? You imagine yourself on that familiar walk to the student center, passing each landmark as usual. When you think about walking out the door of your dorm, you're reminded of Mercury. When you see the beautiful tree in front of the dorm, you think of Venus. At each landmark along the way, you recall the next planet and write it down.
Yeah, sorry, my notes a little messy, but did a perfect job. I think very legible if I explain it. Very clear in terms of contents, I think. So if you really force yourself to think that this is two main paragraphs passage, you could consider until here from the beginning as the first paragraph, and no, or even here. No, it's like this. Sorry, I'm confusing myself because my notes are a bit messy. Apologies. No, it's here, isn't it? Each time you see, try to match on the test. Okay, so I saw this as the 3 paragraphs, which is more accurate, which is fine. But usually the usual format of the TOEFL test in speaking or writing they give you 2 main paragraphs. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's a very tedious, it's something minor, but you know, people get confused easily, some students. So I'm trying to be consistent. So if you see this as like a 2 paragraphs thing, you could start here until here as the like a first paragraph, and the last section as a second paragraph. Or like me, I consider this as a first paragraph, this is a second paragraph, and this is a third paragraph, okay? So what was the listening all about? Let's cover them up. So how this work? For example, lecture says, the method of loci shown in the reading. It works by, for example, let's say you had to learn the planet in order from the sun in distance, right? Then to use the method of loci, you think of a walk, familiar place walk from dormitory to student center, okay? So that was equivalent to when I was explaining reading passage. Do you remember how I enter the building and I walk from the ground floor to 4th floor? That's the same thing, okay? So this is the familiar place that you can have the locations or landmarks, okay? So in this case, it's walk from the dormitory to student center, okay? So what are the landmarks? Like in my case, I said 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, okay? So you pick a landmark, like a front door, big tree, statue in front of library, statue in front of science building. So you pick the locations, pick the landmarks, okay? Yeah, same thing, right? So along the walk, yeah, same thing, okay? So you pick in your mind, you have the 4 landmarks in a logical order, okay? And then what you do, second body from the reading passage, okay? You assign 1 planet, which is a piece of information. You need to learn planets, all the planets in solar system from the sun in distance. So you assign 1 planet per landmark, right? So you know, closest from the sun, you know, you put Mercury and put Mercury as information into front door, which is a first landmark. And the second piece of information, Venus, into a second landmark, big tree. Third planet from the sun, Earth into third landmark, and so on, okay? And each time you match them up, right? First location equals first piece of information I have put in. Okay, so stating the obvious, right? And then conclusion. When you go to the test, finally, to show your skills, to write down the correct answers, you can think of a walk. So you can think of a familiar place, and then try to match each landmark to particular piece of information in order. And it's a repetition, okay? So you will think of front door, and you should think of Mercury, write it down. You should, what was the second landmark? Big tree. So when you think of big tree, what can you remember? Venus, and so forth. And you can get 100% in your test. Okay, so that's the idea. All right, cool. So we've done it all, and let me just go through it with you. So reading passage, I'll say method of loci. Of course, you cannot read this. You have to make sentence from here. Method of loci is one special technique to recall information, especially in particular order, okay? Or if you want to put several pieces of information, you know, kind of important here because it's multiple information, not just one. So you could say method of loci is one special technique to recall information, and it's particularly helpful to remember several pieces of information in particular order. Perfect. Okay. And then we need a what I call bridge sentence or introduction of listening part. We covered reading part already. So this will be up on the screen while you are answering your question, or at least beginning of answering your question for sure. So you can memorize some template that I'm giving you through model answer, or you could use this prompt and make a full sentence out of it. So second sentence should be in the lecture, professors gives an example to explain how method of loci work. Okay, that's all you have to say, all right? Or in the lecture, professor explain how the method of loci works by giving an example. Okay, so that's the second sentence. That's a bridge sentence. And then we rip this information to get the perfect answer, perfect score. Okay. Professor gives an example of when students need to learn planets from the sun in order by distance from the sun. Let's say student think of familiar place. His walk from the dormitory to student center. You could see front door, big tree, statues in front of library, and so on. And try to remember these three landmarks in order. And then student can assign one piece of information, so one planet per landmark in order. So Mercury, the closest one, can be put in to a front door. Venus, second, can be put into a big tree. Third, Earth can be put into a statue in front of library and so on. So when you sitting the test, when you have to give the right answer, you can think of the first landmark, which was front door, and trying to remember assigned information, which was a Mercury, and second one, Venus, third one, Earth, so forth, to write the correct answer for your test. Something like this, okay? Yeah. So we have last section left. Okay, guys, model answer up. Perfect answer, perfect score within 60 seconds. Here we go. Start speaking. Now, beep. Method of loci is one special technique to recall information, and this helps us to remember several pieces of information in a particular order. The professor in the lecture explains how the method of loci work by giving an example. Let's say you need to learn the names of the planets in order by distance from the sun. First, set some landmarks in sequence when you walk from the dorm to the student center. First landmark, maybe the front door, second, maybe the big tree, and third, maybe the statue, and so on. Next thing you do is assign one planet to each of your landmarks in sequence. Assign Mercury to the first landmark, Venus to the second, Earth to the third, and so on. When you take the test, you can think of each landmark in order and match the assigned planets in sequence to write the correct answers down. There you have it. Okay, perfect answer, perfect score, 30 out of 30. Got it done. I hope you found it helpful and you liked the class I provided for you. And thank you very much for watching my video. I truly appreciate it. I really do. And thank you for watching till the end. And no doubt I'll come back with another great video that we can study together with. Okay? Thank you guys. Have a great day. See you in my next video. Bye.